How can you make all your open chords sound good? Not just the easy ones. Now, this often comes up with players in my private lessons, and it's where you could learn a couple of chord shapes and they're going fairly well. Then you seem to hit a wall or kind of slow or hit a plateau, or you feel like you're going around in circles. And you look at certain chords and you go, how come that one's so much more difficult? Like, for example, F. F has a bad rep around the guitar chord world. And so does like D minor is one that you might have heard of, be aware of, or heard of and tried. Some chords are trickier to play than others. But the key thing, which I've touched on in a previous lesson, is to frame them as projects. I kind of call them like construction projects, or like the Statue of David type approach, which sounds a lot more nice and nuanced, right? But when you think about the Statue of David, when Michelangelo crafted it out, it was a block of marble, and or I hope it was marble, it was a block of something cool, and he basically was chipping away and chipping away at it and chipping away at it. Now, that's how I view our work on specific chords. So I'm going to name a couple of chords to begin with that are easier to start with. So if you're starting from scratch and you're looking for general pointers or guidance, you can go to these. So some ones that players tend to find easier than others is G, E minor, then we've A minor, D7 is a nice one, right? And those four can be used in a ton of stuff. I went bop, bop, dun, 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 dun. You can use those four in a ton of stuff. And then the next two I generally suggest is the C chord and the D chord. These are a bit trickier than E minor and G, but the reason I suggest them, even though there's one or two more that are easier to play, is because they will fit with your G and your E minor chord to make a ton of songs. And this is where I generally suggest to keep playing, even if your chords aren't fully clear all the time. What do I mean by that? I mean that, like, do your chord progressions, G, E minor, C and D, and you might find that C and D aren't that clear as the rest of them, but it's better than hanging back for the perfect time till they're all clear to start using them with strum patterns and start doing them with songs, right? Now, the next thing is, when you find a tricky chord shape, like for example, F, a lot of times as players, we forget the work it took to get our regular chords working in the first place, like G and E minor. We forget that they took a bit of work. And then we meet this one, and in a lesson once, I had two students, and we'd been moving along with chords, G, E minor, C and D, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to introduce F. And by the way, this is the four-fingered F, this one. Right? It's not the bar chord. And both students looked at it, and one went, God, that's trickier, that isn't clear, and it's harder to put on, and oh, it's so slow, I don't like it. How many songs has F in it, or do we have to do it? And then they started picking songs, and they'd go, does this one have F in it? And as a teacher, I was putting F in every song I could, so they'd have to learn it. But what happened was, I said to both students, I said, listen, this is going to take longer to learn and more work to learn than your other chords, because it's a bit trickier. And one student asked, well, how many hours do you think? And I said, I don't really know. It's a mystery. Like, we don't know how long certain things take on guitar. But all I do know is the more work you put into it and the more effort and time you pour into that chord, the quicker you're going to learn it, and the quicker you can move on and do fun stuff on guitar. And I gave a rough estimate. I said, I would guess like 4 hours on that one chord, maybe, to get it up to where your E minor and G is. And what happened was, the following week, one guy came in and he was still saying, this F chord is really hard, I don't like it, and it's too hard. And I asked, how long did you spend on it? I asked. Oh, I did 10 minutes a day on it. So in the space of a week, he did roughly an hour, 1 hour on it. The other guy came in and he nearly had it. He nearly had the F chord. And this other student was looking at him as if he was some sort of guitar genius. But I knew. I said, how long did you spend on it? And he said, well, I didn't like the thoughts of spending a month learning it, doing 1 hour a week. So he said, I did 4 hours and it was nearly there. The lesson is, if you just attack these things head on, these chords, like these open chords that you really want to learn, if you just pour the time into it, and I mean go for it. Like there's a Formula 1 driver, I don't know, do you watch Formula 1? I do. And a driver lately, he's gotten way better. And they interviewed the team principal and asked, what has he been doing? He's like way better. And the team principal said, oh, he spent the last couple of months working on driving so his tyres wouldn't get used so quickly. That was like the one thing this guy was focusing on. Not overall driving, but like driving so that his tyres would last longer. Like that's a very specific thing to focus on. And that's an elite level Formula 1 driver. And if you think about your chords, if you take an F chord and you just say, I'm going all in on it. This week is F week, right? I'm doing it. Or B7, whatever type of open chord. And how you do it is, you basically do your clear chord check. Okay, you're pressing hard. Rest is necessary. Of course, within the 4 hours, if it was 4 hours, you gotta rest. Rest. And the other thing too is, like, it's important to ask for help. If you kind of feel that you're trying it and you're not seeing improvements, ask for help. And that's why you're in this community. Post a comment on the thread for this guide and just ask for help with whatever specific chord. Keep in mind there's a big difference between saying my chords are unclear and F is very unclear for me. Like we can laser in on that and get you help. Alright, so that's your action item. Get to work, find a chord that didn't come as easy and say to yourself, I'm going to spend like extra time on it this week, and measure it. Measure how clear it's starting to sound. And you can record yourself. You can actually measure how many changes you do per minute and things like that. Alright, have fun and I'll see you in the next lesson.